What is up, guys? It is DMG here, and today's video is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a pretty long one, I assume, and it's going to be me just pretty much talking about how broken FIFA 19 is, especially compared to the last few FIFAs. Now, I know a lot of people complain about other people complaining about how, every FIFA, it's the worst FIFA, right? FIFA, 17 we said it was the worst, then FIFA 18 came along and we said FIFA 18 is the worst, FIFA 19 came along, said that's the worst. And honestly, I believe that's happening because it's pretty much true, at least in terms of gameplay. Like, in terms of content, FIFA 17, FIFA 18, FIFA 19 has gotten better. It's gotten a lot better over the years, I would say, in terms of just content in general. But in terms of gameplay, this is definitely one of the worst, if not the worst gameplay year of all time for FIFA. And obviously, that's like the biggest part of FIFA, right? Is, I mean, unless you trade, which is cool, but, that's fine. I'm not saying it's bad to trade by any means, but, like, gameplay is obviously the main part of any video game. It's about playing, right? And if you can't play with these players that you trade up to, if you can't play with these players that you somehow packed or that you grinded towards, right? It's not fun to use. It's not fun to use any type of squad builder or build, squad builders with new players I haven't tried. Then it's a broken game, and it's just not a good game. And there are some things that I do definitely want to touch upon, and there are two games that we're going to go through that we're definitely going to have like a lot of clips involved. And honestly, I could go through, probably point out things every 5 minutes or something like that, but we're not going to do that. These are just glaring things that desperately need to be fixed. And then these first two clips are going to kind of just show one or two things that really need to be fixed. But basically, some things that I'm going to be touching upon are the fact that and these are things that are kind of not at the bottom of the list, but things that basically aren't necessarily the most pressing, right? So like referees, the added time glitch, I guess you could say, right, where it's, let's say it's 2 minutes of added time, it's the 45th minute, you have 2 minutes of added time, it goes to the 47th minute, you think halftime's going to be there, but it goes to the 48th, 49th, 50th even, right? So you have 5 minutes of extra time instead of, or 5 minutes of added time instead of, two. The fact that player switching is still a thing, right? Or the fact that actually, switching players is kind of broken, right? It doesn't go to the right person. Or players swapping positions, that's still in the game, right? When you didn't ask for it. And, the fact that those last two things are kind of at the, again, not at the bottom, but there are more pressing things than, switching players, and it's not going to who it says it's going to go to. The fact that that's not at the top of the list kind of explains how broken this game is. So again, the main points we're going to be going through are the fact that AI attacking is just garbage in of itself. The AI defending is too overpowered. I think we all know that, right? There's no counters to it. There's no downsides to playing like that. Shooting's inconsistent, especially the 1v1s, right? We'll look at some shooting clips that are a little inconsistent from long range, but mainly it's just for 1v1s, which also make the AI defending a little bit more overpowered because, again, there's no counters to it. You're not really rewarded for manual play, and then people are rewarded for anti-FIFA. And the anti-FIFA could be, abusing game mechanics, right? Like the El Tornado Cross, right? You get the most meta players, you run down the wing, right, with Mbappe, El Tornado Cross into Ibra, and you score a goal, right? That's anti-FIFA because you're not, like, that's, to me at least, that's anti-FIFA. And I would say probably the majority of players would agree with that, right? And for those last two things I mentioned, right, with not being rewarded for manual play and being rewarded for anti-FIFA, basically there's just a lot of RNG that needs to be taken out of the game. And that's what this first clip is definitely going to be going for. So with this first clip here, all right, you can see the fact that this guy shoots it, right? He shoots it randomly with his Suarez, I believe, right? So he shoots it with Suarez, right? Just randomly. Just random. He actually had a guy out wide that he could have passed to, but, if he were to pass to it, that'd be good, right? It'd be good gameplay, right? Or at least good decision by him. It's not. He makes a bad decision, and it just randomly, right? He shoots it, weak foot, randomly just goes and falls to his Cruyff. Now, in this position, if Cruyff were to step ahead, if he were to head the ball and win the header, I could understand that because, Marcelo's backing up, Cruyff is going forward. I could understand that. I could kind of get behind that at least. However, Marcelo doesn't actually go to the ball, right? You can see that he doesn't go to the ball. And this is just from a clip that that I got from a stream, right? He doesn't go to the ball. He backs up. Cruyff was able to get the ball. And I do mention, I know they don't do handballs or anything like that, but it's just the fact that, it's a handball. Obviously, of course, that was going to happen. And then eventually he was able to shoot, and score it, right, and off the post. But the other thing I really wanted to show was the fact that my Williams here. So I'll show the little bit of the build-up, right? I took 3 touches here, right? 3 touches. So I took 1, 2, 3. 3 touches, right? So I faced up. I did the correct things, right? It wasn't like I took a touch and was facing away from the goal and then shot it randomly. It wasn't like that at all. I took 3 touches. There was no pressure on me, and this is the Carnival Williams. So great shooting Williams. I think he has 88 long shots and 95, 94, 96 shot power, somewhere around there, right? And again, this is the inconsistent shooting in general. Now, I'm not saying this should go in literally every single time. I'm not saying that. I'm not necessarily expecting it to go in. I think it's a good shot, right? I think it's a decent shot with a good shooting player where I took touches and I don't have any pressure on me. So I think it's a good, not necessarily high percentage, but it's just a good shot in general, right? Again, I'm not saying it should go in literally every single time if you have that opportunity, but with the fact that what happens here, right? Again, the context of what I did, the context of the fact that this happens consistently, right? Where you take all the necessary touches, there's no pressure, and you look at the arrow. I put a good amount of power on it. I don't time it, but the arrow's going up, right? And it's going not necessarily even like right at the post, right? It's not even going to the corner. It's pretty middle towards the goal, right? So if the goalie were to save it, fair enough, right? If the goalie were to save it, if we were to go maybe inches wide, if it was going to go a little bit wide, I mean, even if it was going to go a little bit higher, I think the trajectory of the arrow is kind of showing it might go a little bit high, right? If those things happened, I wouldn't really be complaining, right? There would be no problem with that, right? The arrow showing it's going to go to a place where the goalie could easily save it. Fair enough. But it's the fact that, right, the arrow's pointing upwards, it's pointing pretty much directly, not down the middle of the goal, but obviously in a spot where it's going to go inside the goal. And it goes yards wide. Bounces twice, right? It skids across the ground and it bounces twice and it goes out of bounds. It goes, how far is that? 2, 3 yards wide? To me, that shouldn't really be happening unless, if it was a one-off thing where it happens 1 in every 500 attempts. Obviously that might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but you know what I mean. If it goes and happens very, very, very rarely, that's one thing, right? Again, if it's a one-off thing, that's one thing. The fact that this happens pretty consistently where you take these touches, there's no one on you, you do a good shot, and in 1, it goes wide. 2, it just doesn't even register like your power, right? It just skids across the ground. To me, that's ridiculous. To me, that is something that needs to be desperately fixed. We'll go to this other segment here. And this is the part where, again, it's the AI defending here. Or not defending, it's the AI attack, right? The AI attack. So he has Hazard here, right? He has a corner, he has Hazard. And basically what happens here is he just randomly just crosses it in, right? Because it's a corner, right? Crosses it in. Now, as you can tell, he has Aubameyang here, and I'm pretty sure he powers up with Aubameyang, right? Now, I have Witsel here. Witsel's 6'2", Aubameyang 6'2". They're both kind of going backwards a little bit compared to like where the marker is, the ball is going to go. If Aubameyang were to win it, I would be a little upset, but at the same time, Witsel's kind of challenging him a little bit. There's a little bit of challenge there, so it wouldn't be like that big of a deal. I think it'd be somewhat fair, right? But as you can tell, he's Aubameyang and he's trying to head the ball with Aubameyang, right? From this point, the AI takes control of his Varane, right? And it does a bicycle kick and it goes in. So you can see here that it's Varane. It chooses Varane for him and it just kicks the ball in for him. He did not choose to be Varane, right? He's obviously Aubameyang. And as soon as Varane goes into the motion, that's when it switches to Varane as if to say, oh, look, the player did it himself, when in actuality it's obviously not the case, right? Because he's clearly Aubameyang. He clearly powered up with Aubameyang, right? And then as soon as Varane starts to go, then it just switches randomly. There's no input from him, as you can see at the bottom right. There's no input whatsoever. And it just kicks the ball in for him. Weak foot, I might add. Now, obviously, the fact that Varane was able to put this in is ridiculous in of itself. But then again, the fact that the AI did it for him, right? There was no input from him. That's just ridiculous, right? And I've seen a lot of things on Twitter where people, shoot the ball and it hits the goalie or hits the post and it falls to an attacker, and the AI puts it in automatically for them. There's no shot, there's no input, there's no nothing. It's just the AI does it for them. And the fact that this is a thing where it literally scores for you, that's the RNG that desperately needs to be fixed. And again, like, that's not even necessarily on here, right? That's not even the fact that that's really on here. I guess, I mean, technically, I guess it's, I don't want to see being rewarded for anti-FIFA because, I mean, it's a cross. It's not necessarily the worst thing in the world. It's from a corner, right? It's not to the far post, right? It's a corner. You kind of cross it in. That's not necessarily anti-FIFA. That's just what you kind of do. It's just kind of an RNG thing. But the fact that, again, the AI does it for him, it's ridiculous, right? And again, it just goes in. So those were just 2 random clips, right? I guess 3 random clips with in the first video that I was showing. Now we're going to go into the actual games, right? 2 games where I have multiple clips to show what's wrong here, right? To show what's wrong with FIFA. So we have a foot draft here, and I believe I'm going to go with this one first. I believe I'm going to go with this one first. So that's my draft right there, right? And I mean, it's just a normal draft, right? So we'll go with my goal first. And again, I do want to show some validity with here, right? I'm not trying to say everything I do is perfect. Not everything I do is obviously going to be deserved or anyway, right? I need to show the fact that some things, you know, some really BS things happen for me as well, so I can try to add some validity to this video, right? So then it doesn't seem like I'm just complaining about things that happen to me, right? Things obviously go for me as well that need to be fixed. So I'll show in this build-up play what happens here. And in the build-up, I don't believe anything really bad happens, I believe. I think it's just the fact, I wonder if you guys can point it out, right? Nothing really bad happens here, right? Nothing too crazy. Obviously, the defender gets megged. But besides that, my build-up play isn't really too cheesy, right? I didn't abuse any game mechanics, from what I could see at least. But the thing that happens here, again, I showed it first to see if you guys could see it. It's the player switching. It's one of the things that I haven't really, or that I did mention that need to be fixed, but isn't even that high, which again is ridiculous in of itself. That player switching, right, it is not really that high on things that need to be fixed, which is bad. So, right, I'm Cruyff, right, do this. Now, he is Matuidi here, right? He's Matuidi. Now, right here, I have the advantage here, right? If he were to switch, it should go to either Bobby Moore, right, the guy in the orange shoes, right here, the guy in the orange shoes, or it should go to, I think that's a Lala right here. It should go to one of those 2. It'd make more sense to go to Lala because then if I were to shoot, Lala would be in a better position to block it, right? Bobby Moore out here doesn't really make sense because he wouldn't be able to block it. So it would make more sense to go to number 4, Kenny, I think it's Kenny Lala here, right? However, when he does switch, it switches him to here, switches him to Bentancur, right? That's ridiculous. Like that shouldn't even be close to any of the players it should be switching to. Like that does not make any sense. There are 3 players, arguably, right? There's Lala, there's Moore, and then there's this guy right here, whoever that is. All 3 of those guys are closer. And Van Dijk, actually, right here, and Van Dijk. 4 guys who are closer, and it goes to someone who's not even involved in the play whatsoever, right? There's no reason for the game to switch him to Bentancur here, right? Because Werner's being marked by Van Dijk. Whoever this is from my team is offsides and being marked by number 5, who I think was Sandro, I'm not sure. But it should switch to Lala or to Bobby Moore. And because of that, right, and honestly, it might have even helped him out a little bit just because of AI defending, but, you know, he wasn't switched to the player who would make sense to. And it doesn't make sense. And then it also gets megged as well. And he also gets megged. So, again, my build-up play wasn't necessarily that bad, but the fact that, you know, he switched and it didn't go to someone who wasn't even close to the ball, that's obviously, you know, that's a cheesy goal. It is. Like, it's obviously a kind of a BS goal. So now I want to go to the 55th minute. It is in the second half. And, again, it's a player switching thing. So we go forward a little bit. So he has Mbappe, right? I have Mendy here. Now, I'm holding RB. So you can see Sanchez right here start to run. You can see Sanchez start to run, right? And I'm doing that because, for one thing, this man right here is going to be marked by my center backs, right? I'm going to try to move this a little bit. You can see that there's a right back here that he's able to pass back to. So I'm holding RB so that, 1, I can double team, and then 2, I'm able to then try to switch to Sanchez so I can cut off that area, right? I can cut off that area. So in my mind, worst case scenario, the ball bounces off me out of bounds for throw-in for my opponent, right? So what happens is, right, again, I'm marking it. I'm holding RB so Sanchez can come close so I can try to mark him. Now it cuts back, and again, you can see here, if I press LB, it will switch to Sanchez because that's what this little icon right here means. That's what that icon means. It means I'm going to be switching to Sanchez if I were to switch players. Now I'm doing this, right? I'm in my mind, what's going on right here is I'm going to try to cut off this pass in this area because right here, I want to say that's Sissoko. To me, Sissoko is going to be able to mark Hullet or be able to intercept that. So I want to be able to mark this guy right here. I believe that's Lala. But when I do switch, right, switches me to Figo. And again, it was originally over the head of Sanchez. He's obviously the closest to the ball. It obviously makes the most sense. However, it switches me to Figo. And you can tell that I was anticipating switching it to Sanchez because you see me run with Figo up the field, right? Right there. You can see a couple steps that I run with Figo because, again, I'm anticipating Sanchez. And it still doesn't even switch me to Sanchez, which is ridiculous, right? And, you know, because of this, it goes ahead and he scores a goal from it, right? So, again, nothing necessarily wrong with this guy's build-up play, right? There was nothing wrong with the build-up play. He didn't do anything cheesy. It was the fact that both of us were screwed by player switching, right? Both of us were screwed by player switching. And instead of it being 1-1, it should potentially just still be 0-0, right? Which, again, is just ridiculous. Now, this next thing could be a little picky, but I've noticed some things that kind of happen that really shouldn't happen with this. So basically what's going to happen here is I try to pass the ball and Matuidi is in a position where he's behind Werner, right? So right here, in my eyes, Werner is ahead of Matuidi here, right? Werner is ahead of Matuidi. In my eyes, he shouldn't really be getting the ball. Now, if he were to kind of step around, right, if he was able to kind of move and maybe knock Werner over, maybe commit a foul, then it makes sense if he gets the ball. But from this position, I don't see any way how Matuidi could really get the ball, in my eyes, right? Because Werner is completely shielding the ball. He's taking a touch, meaning the ball is pretty much directly on his foot at the time. Yet Matuidi is able to get away and knock it out of Werner's foot. Again, that could be viewed as a little bit too picky, but I've noticed times where that just shouldn't really happen, where the defender is able to get the ball when they're directly behind someone, right? And they just still somehow get the ball. There's one thing about inputs, and honestly, we haven't even talked about people stuck in mud, bad gameplay, and all that stuff, which is pretty pathetic, I'll be honest, because that's something that desperately needs to be fixed, but the fact that they haven't really done it is just bad in itself. So this clip, again, it's more of an input thing, and I've noticed that there are times, obviously, where there's delayed gameplay, there's input lag, where you do an input and it doesn't do it, right? That happens all the time. This, however, is something, and again, I've seen it, right? These aren't just one-off situations, right? Because otherwise I wouldn't really be worrying about it that much. This happens consistently, where you have an input, and they just don't do anything. It's not late. It's not as if it takes like a second or two because of input delay or lag. They just don't do the input for whatever reason, right? So you see here, I have the ball is cleared. It's going to go to Mendy here, right? Mendy's here, and this is Lionel Messi, right? Mendy's taller. He's bigger. Messi's obviously smaller. Messi's running kind of away from the ball, right? So he's not going to have a great jump on it, whereas Mendy's already there. He's able to use all of his strength to jump the ball. So in my eyes, Mendy should 100% be heading the ball, getting it, and passing it to, I believe this is Eriksson right there, right? What happens, right, and you can see my input, nothing happens. He decides to try to take a touch instead of heading the ball, jumping and heading the ball. He decides to take a touch, and because of this, the guy gets the ball, and then he goes on to score, right? And again, I know people are going to be saying, oh, you should just defend it in this case. There, in my eyes, if he were to, not score from this, right? If I were to get the ball, if I was to have a possession, he was to have another possession, I was to have a possession, and then he was to score, then I would agree with you guys. in terms of I should have just defended, right? Because it was so far away from that incident that it wouldn't have really mattered. When an incident occurs like this, when the opponent shouldn't get the ball and then they score immediately off of it, then that's the problem. Then that's the problem, right? So, oh, I should have defended better, maybe, but I should never have been put in that situation in the first place, right? Mendy should have been able to jump, head the ball to Eriksson, and, would have I scored? I mean, probably not. Honestly, there could have been halftime. Halftime of extra time, right? I'm not saying I would have scored, but I shouldn't have been put in this place to defend, all right? That's what I'm saying. I should have been put in this place to defend because Mendy should have jumped and won the ball. And there are 2 more clips here for just this game, 107 here. So basically what's happening here, actually, I don't think this one's right because there was a small input from Sanchez here. There was a small input, so never mind. Never mind for this one. I was thinking there was no input there, and obviously Eriksson stabs. Now, I still don't think he would have stabbed, right? If you look back on this. If you look back on this, Eriksson stabs for no reason when I wasn't him. So there could be a little bit of input delay, right? So that's where I input it. And then it just randomly, again, it randomly switches me. I didn't press LB, it randomly switches me, and Eriksson just does that. And he stabs for nearly no reason. Now, again, I did put an input for B, for Sanchez to try to make a tackle. However, I still believe that Eriksson should have stabbed. But in my eyes, initially, I did not see the input from Sanchez. That's my fault. 122.55. Again, this is the added time thing. Also, just for the context of the game, he eventually scored from that, and then I eventually scored from just a kickoff, right? Again, I don't think there's anything too cheesy about this. Just the fact that it's a kickoff goal, right? It's kickoffs are boosted, right? There's nothing else about that. It's just a kickoff goal. And then finally, again, there's kind of that added time quote unquote glitch, right? So he has the ball here. He has a corner, right? It's 2 minutes of added time. It's getting there. He almost gets it in, right? At this point, right, I'm thinking, okay, I'm just going to clear it. It's going to be game. Yet I somehow, right, I'm just randomly pushing buttons, and it almost works out for me. Terrible passes, by the way, because, again, I assumed the game was going to be over. Terrible passes that I should have been punished for, yet I wasn't. Now, again, this point, again, all of this shouldn't have happened. I'm pointing that out now. None of this should have happened. But this thing, again, I'm a little bit 50-50 about. So you can see here, Eriksson and Matuidi here. Eriksson's already in full stride. Matuidi stopped and then started to run. So Eriksson is going to be ahead of Matuidi. So then, in my eyes, I pass it to Eriksson. He gets maybe a 1v1 shot, or at least a decent shot at goal, and then hopefully I could tie it up. However, in this case, Cruyff misplaces the pass, right? It's just a bad pass. Now, again, there are 2. I'm a little mixed about this because, one, Cruyff is exhausted. You can see at the bottom that his stamina was pretty much depleted. However, at the same time, in my eyes, it's Cruyff, right? It's prime icon, prime moment Cruyff. With 94 vision, 94 short passing. In my eyes, he should just be making that pass. But again, he was exhausted, so I'm a little bit 50-50 on that. So I do want to see what you guys have on that and what your opinion is. But again, none of that should have happened because it's literally 2 minutes of added time. And eventually, I do almost score from this. Just a goal line clearance from Matuidi. Doesn't even end the game there. He has to clear it, and then finally it ends 2.5 minutes after the extra time happened. And then finally, this is the last thing I do want to show here. This is going to be more the... this is going to be pretty much longer, I would say. So for my first goal, actually, I believe this is him scoring. And I believe this one was 100% my fault, right? So he crosses it, I head it out, pass it to Fabinho. Now, at this point, I could clearly just pass to Kondogbia. I'm not sure exactly what was going on. Maybe I was just frustrated with previous games, but I literally just passed it to no one. He intercepts it, right? That was obviously a stupid pass. He goes and scores from it, right? That's clearly 100% on me. I 100% take responsibility for that. That's not good defending. That's 100% on me, right? Makes sense. Now, and again, I'm showing this just because I can learn. I'm showing you guys this just because, one, just the context of the game, him scoring a goal. 2, I want to show that I have some validity, right? I'm not just complaining about everything. I'm not complaining about every single goal, right? That part was obviously 100% my fault. This next thing is more about the referees, AI defending. It's kind of a mixture of both things here. So I'm running down the wing here, right? Get the ball inside, pass it to Henry. Now here's the thing, right? He's obviously Puyol. I think he's holding RB to bring back Van Dijk. I'm not entirely sure. But either way, he completely takes me out, doesn't get any of the ball, and it's not a PK, as you can see, because play goes on. Again, that's two things. Obviously, it's the referees not calling a PK for whatever reason. Like, they don't call that a PK, but, you know, you holding LT, L2, jockeying, not doing anything, not trying to tackle, them running into you, them falling over, and that's a PK. Right, obviously there's some discrepancy that needs to be addressed there because I don't understand how that's not a foul. But then also the second thing is kind of the AI defending, right? Because there are two things that basically shouldn't happen. So either one, me being knocked over should not happen at all, or two, that should be a penalty. Because let's say he's not holding RB, right? Let's say he's not bringing someone close. That's just Van Dijk running. That's how overpowered the AI defending is. So that just needs to be addressed in general. That needs to be addressed so then, you know, they don't come, you know, screaming in and taking you out and it's not a PK. If he was holding RB, right? If he was holding RB, first of all, I still don't think that the player, right, should be getting that close and knocking me over. Now, if I were to do like a skill move and kind of go into him and then fall over, that'd be one thing. But you know, still, I don't think the player should be getting that close. But if he's holding RB, that's manual defending. Or not necessarily manual defending, but he's doing something. He has an input that's bringing another player close. So, again, it's not necessarily manual defending, right, because it's still the AI. But he's pressing a button. He's doing an input to where someone's coming closer, right? So he's manually doing something. So in my eyes, if he was doing that, that should be PK because that's still the user input, right? But again, either it should be called a PK, right? Or the player should not be close enough, right? The defender shouldn't be close enough to the point where they're just completely knocking me over and it's no call. But again, so it's that mixture of, you know, the AI defending and the fact that the refs are just completely inconsistent. We move on to the second goal that my opponent scores here, and it starts off with a couple things. So I do want to start off just with a couple things. Again, this is going to be initially starting with the AI attack, right? We all know about the AI defending being overpowered. This is about the AI attack. So first of all, there are two players that I want you guys to keep an eye on. Kondogbia here, and this is a 4-3-3 false 9. Keep that in mind, 4-3-3 version 5. So I have a right center mid, which is Kondogbia, and I have Messi at right wing. Keep those two guys in mind. Watch them for what's happening because, right, this is just normal stuff, right? It makes sense. We have a right winger in Messi. We have Kondogbia kind of running back, right, to kind of help out because he's a center mid. So he crosses it, or not crosses it, passes it forward, right? I have Kondogbia here. Now, I did not press LB, right? So what you could do, there's an input you could do where you do like a 1-2, right? You hold LB or L1 and you pass it, and they just run forward, right? So I just didn't do that, right? I just a normal pass, right? Now I have, again, Messi and Kondogbia. I have Messi playing right wing, not doing anything, and I have Kondogbia here randomly running to the left wing spot, right? So again, there's two things that are really messed up here, right? The fact that Messi, a right winger, the best right winger in the game, is not doing anything to get open, right? And again, I do have him on cut inside, getting behind, but again, just the fact that there's no movement whatsoever is just garbage in itself. And the fact that Kondogbia is running from right center mid, right? You see all that open space there to left wing, right? Now, if Nainggolan were to kind of go to that left wing spot, because Henry's kind of cutting in, I wouldn't want that, but at least that would kind of make a little bit of sense, right? Because he's in that spot, right? Left mid or left center mid to left wing, that would at least make sense. Kondogbia running from right center mid to left wing literally makes no sense whatsoever, right? And again, you see Kondogbia still staying there. You still have Messi not really doing anything, right? Not trying to cut back a little bit. So that's the first thing that goes wrong in here. Second thing, it's about to hit the ref. Hits the ref for literally no reason. Don't understand why the refs aren't basically ghosts where no player can really run into them and then the ball doesn't hit them either. At that point, the referee should just be a ghost, right? Now, again, you see finally a little bit of movement from Messi, just a little bit. Now, this thing is obviously my fault. I would say 90 to 95% my fault, right? Because I bring Van Dijk forward and that sends Lineker through. The 5 to 10% that I don't think is my fault is I think Socrates should be kind of sitting back a little bit, or the right back could kind of be cutting in a little bit to kind of intercept that pass, I would say. But obviously me bringing Van Dijk forward is the biggest problem there. So again, that's 90 to 95% my fault there, right? Again, that's also a little bit of anti-FIFA, considering the fact that he was able to just get through from 2 passes because he was defending so much. But again, that's obviously my fault just from Van Dijk. Now, again, this is not being rewarded for doing manual things. I do move my goalkeeper a little bit. First of all, goalkeeper movement, time finishing, should not be in the game whatsoever. But I'm doing manual goalkeeper. I'm moving my goalkeeper a little bit to the side because I know he's going to shoot at far post, right? And I think, all right, that's going to give me a better chance of saving the ball, which it does. However, it obviously goes right to Messi, obviously. Now, at this point, I'm Alexandro, and I'm going to try to block the shot, which I do. I do block the shot. However, I think you guys can see where this is going. The ball, obviously going to land straight to Lineker, and it goes in for a goal. Basically, 4 things wrong happened there, right? 4 things wrong happened. 1, the fact that Kondogbia went to go play left wing instead of right center mid, and the fact that Messi didn't do anything from that right wing spot, but we'll count that as one thing, right? Just the shitty attacking AI. The fact that I hit the ball with the ref when the ref should not have any play involved whatsoever. The fact that I did basically 2 things here, right? I was punished twice for manual defending, right? Moving the goalkeeper, which again should not be in the game whatsoever, but I moved because I wanted to ensure that I saved the shot. Obviously, it goes straight to one of his attackers. I blocked the shot with Sandro, which again is another something that I get punished for manually defending. And obviously, it still falls to Lineker for a goal. So again, I'm being punished for doing basically manual things that they put in the game, yet he's able to basically just push forward for 2 passes, press B to shoot, and that's it. No build-up play, no nothing. He was able to just get the goal just by pressing B and shooting and hoping for the best, right? So that in itself is just pretty ridiculous. So we move on to the second half, and this is kind of where it starts to get a little bit more interesting, I would say. So we start with the 48th minute here. So in the 48th minute, we have Nainggolan making a run forward and missing a 1v1, basically. So we have the ball with Hazard. Very fortunate to get the ball back there. He should get the ball, right? He was not rewarded for his play of tackling me, right? He should have the ball. So I'll say that. So we see Nainggolan making a beautiful run, right? I do an A button pass so that Nainggolan can take a touch, but unfortunately the pass itself is not that good. Now, from this spot, I do think, considering that, 1, the movement that Yashin does, right? He does that animation where he puts his left leg behind his right one to try to slide. So if it's on the ground, it should be a goal, right? Now, if you look at his power, right? You look at the power here, that's about 1.75 bars. 1.75 bars, 1.5 bars, a little over 1.5 bars, right? Let's say 1.75 bars. We'll see where the ball ends up, right? That's wide. Didn't go high, it was wide. In fact, if it was on target, it'd be a pretty good shot. It wouldn't even been upper 90 if I'm being honest. It would have been pretty under the crossbar, right? If it was just on target, would have been a goal, right? Personally, I still think that Nainggolan probably should have made that, but the fact that it's wide, it's one time, the goalie's a little bit close. I mean, again, I still think it should go in, but you could kind of debate that one a little bit. So keep that in mind. Remember the power, right? And also the fact where Nainggolan was there, right? Let's take a look at where Nainggolan was, right? So again, keep in mind the power, 1.75 bars, and the fact that he's 12, 13 yards out, I would say, right? PK spot's 12 yards out, so I would say it's like 13 yards out, right? So we go forward, and basically the clip I want to show is pretty much after this. I just score a goal just for the context of the game, right? Go ahead and score a goal here, turn, shoot, so it's a goal. But the thing I really want to show here is this, right? Here's the thing I really wanted to show. So we have Messi here, pass it back, don't know why I was supposed to go to him. Kondogbia to Messi, and we have Henry. Now Henry's going to make a good run, right? So again, Remember what I said. Keep in mind the power and the position where Nainggolan was at initially, right? Nainggolan was pretty much just on the exact opposite side. Henri is about 12, 13 yards away, still a bar and a half of power, or a bar and 3/4 of power. Yashin is pretty far away. I would say this should be a goal, especially with considering the fact that it's Thierry Henry. He has 90 finishing, right? This should be a goal. It should be a goal, right? However, what happens is, one, he obviously misses, obviously, but the fact that it goes high and wide, goes high and wide. To me, I don't really think that should be going high, right? If it's going wide, I mean, that's just the fact that it's an inconsistent shooting, but it should not be going high because Nainggolan is in the exact same spot with the same amount of power, and it wasn't high before. I mean, I've seen this consistently where the same amount of power can give you a shot that's on the ground, can give you a shot that's, you know, perfectly in the air, or can give you a shot that's above the crossbar and too high. There is inconsistency, obviously, with the shooting in general, but there's inconsistency even with the shot bar, right? Which to me is absolutely ridiculous, right? If you input the exact same thing, right? If you input, let's say, a bar and a half here, right? It should not be going high. And then the next shot, it's going low, right? To me, that just shouldn't really be happening, right? Because that's too much RNG. If you do, I mean, if it's different players, right? One with 50 finishing, one with 90 finishing, that's one thing. But again, if you input the same amount of power, one shouldn't be going perfect height, one shouldn't be going too high, one shouldn't be going too low. That just should not be a thing. So those were the things basically I really want to view. There's kind of just a small thing where Messi just misses the ball here, right? Pass the ball, he just lunges right automatically for literally no reason there. We'll take another look at it. It literally just lunges for no reason, right? No input involved here. There's no input at the bottom right that made it so he was going to try to do something, right? Again, we'll take a look at the input. No input whatsoever. He just lunges over the ball for whatever reason. For whatever reason, right? Now, we eventually do get a goal later on just from a decent build-up. Almost misses it. Hits the post, I believe. And then, finally, for the very last thing, it goes into extra time. He scores a goal. This is going to be in the 115th minute, right? 115th minute. This is, again, with the bad AI attacking, the really bad AI attacking. So, I get the ball with Thierry Henry here, right? I have two options that I could do. I mean, I obviously have more, but there are two glaring options, right? I could kind of do something with Thierry Henry, or I could pass to Nainggolan, right? In my eyes, Nainggolan is definitely the way to go here, right? Nainggolan could go from here and makes this run right here, right? I could pass it just right here, have Nainggolan run onto it, take a touch, and shoot it, right? Because this left back here, or defender, whoever it is far enough back to the point where if I pass it here, because if Nainggolan were to make this run and pass it in this general area, Nainggolan could take a touch and shoot it, or just shoot it in general, right? However, what happens is Nainggolan does not make that run, and he starts to go this way. He starts to go towards the defender, which is absolutely ridiculous because, again, there's all of this space in the middle to go into, to lay it off easily for Nainggolan, who, again, I could shoot it, or I could even take a touch and pass it to Sane, because Sane could be offside, but then he could run back, right? Which then, you know, this defender runs past, I could pass it to Sane, could score a goal. But again, what happens is Nainggolan runs to this defender, and because of that, again, I'm expecting the ball to be better, I'm expecting the run to be better in this general area. Now with this defender closing in on me, I can't really shoot the ball because it's going to get blocked, right? So now I have to quickly get rid of it to pass to Sane, who's offside, right? And eventually, you know, I do score a goal from it, but obviously I'm offside. So again, it's that attacking AI that just needs to be smarter. There's all that space to run into, yet they just don't. They just don't run into that space for whatever reason. So basically, that's going to be it. Again, I do... There is a kind of like a small list of things, right? Again, kind of the reps, the added time, players switching, both, you know, pressing LB to switch from player to player, and the fact that players are switching positions, right? That whole thing. right? And that's kind of low on the list of things, right? Which is atrocious in of itself. But then again, the attacking AI is garbage, as you can just witness there. The fact that AI defending's too overpowered, right? The fact that shooting's inconsistent, right? We saw the long shot with Williams. We saw Nainggolan and Thierry Henry miss 1v1 shots from the exact same spot, right? One was high, one was wide and high. Or one was wide and high. Then we obviously have the fact that, not rewarded for manual play, right? Just because of me moving my goalkeeper and it goes directly to one of his attackers, me blocking the shot with Sandro, and again, it goes to one of his other attackers and he's able to put it away. The fact that you are rewarded for anti-FIFA, right? Again, because of the AI defending, right? And the fact that people are able to abuse the game, abuse the El Tornado and just cross it in and, go far post with headers. So again, I've kind of done this a little bit that's similar from Italian. Actually, it's pretty much the exact same thing as Italian Stallion and Inception, right? And again, I just wanted to put my input on this just because, I feel as though if more people are talking about this in a valid way, in a more controlled, calm way. Again, I tried to be as unbiased as possible. There was a clip in here that I kind of took out, right, with that Renato Sanchez because I did not think that there was an input there, but I was wrong and there was. So again, I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible. And, I'm not saying that I'm a pro player by any means. I'm not saying that I'm a top 100 player, but, I'm elite. I'm an elite player, right? If I were to play through the weekend league, which I've done twice, only done twice, one of them I got to 25 wins and I was at 1.23-3, and then the other time I got to 23 wins and finished Elite 3. So again, like I'm competent. I know what I'm talking about. Again, I don't know if my weight would have as much, or if what I'm saying has as much weight as, again, a pro player like Italian Stallion. But again, I do want to show these clips because, again, I know what I'm talking about. And again, hopefully with this style of, with this type of video or with these types of videos, it's not just a one-off clip of some player like randomly going into the sky, right? That's on Twitter saying, at EA Sports, at Corey, at Zaro saying, fix the game, right? Or, some screenshot of two players playing each other with one with 20 shots, 15 shots on target, one with one shot, one goal, one, losing 1-0 or something like that. I feel as though this has more validity involved with it. So again, I wanted to do that just so then hopefully it could be more, we can at least show what we're talking about, right? And I wanted to do this just because then I could show what I'm talking about. If you guys watch any other videos of mine or watch any streams of mine, you guys can see what I'm talking about. And then hopefully, you guys can see that I actually have some valid points here and that I actually provide some validity rather than, just some random guy just screaming about, nonsense that doesn't have any idea what he's talking about. But I know, again, this is going to be a long video, but I do appreciate you guys watching it. If you do have any suggestions about anything, if I forgot anything, put it in the comments so we can happily talk about it. Again, I try not to complain as much, but it's just something that I'm very passionate about in terms of FIFA, right? It's the game that I play the most. It's the game that I'm best at compared to, other things that I play. So again, I am this comes from a good place, right? This comes from a good place of me just trying to make the game, in my eyes, as best as possible, right? As limited RNG, a good skill gap, and, fixing all of these things that desperately need to be fixed. So again, that is going to be it. Appreciate you guys, just watching this video. And again, if you have any feedback, let me know and we can talk about it. But, like I said, that's going to be it. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's been DMG. Peace.